The palace maid only wanted to leave the palace, but by a twist of fate, her innocence was taken by the third prince. Back in her room, she scrubbed her body hard, but she couldn't wash away the shame of what had just happened. Her good sister searched for her for a long time before finding Qingying. "Why are you bathing again?" Qingying's eyes were full of tears. "I got dirty." Ewer stepped forward worriedly to ask. Qingying stammered in reply, "I caught a cold. I'm afraid of passing it to you. You should go out first." After Ewer left, only then did Qingying dare to cry out loud. She didn't know what to do. Ningyan, who had entered the palace with her, was now living a miserable life in the cold palace just for offending the third prince. The next day, Eunuch Yu suddenly came to the Yeding court looking for maids. Qingying panicked. Eunuch Yu served the third prince. Was he here to look for her? Just as Qingying was about to go over, she was stopped by Yao Yingxue. The sharp Yao Yingxue had already discovered the affair between Qingying and the third prince. She used this to threaten Qingying. "If you don't want the third prince to know, give me the sachet." Qingying thought it was just an ordinary sachet. Yao Yingxue impatiently snatched it away. She had a triumphant expression on her face. A moment later, all the maids knelt in the center of the courtyard. At the third prince's command, it began. Eunuch Yu immediately ordered the maids to roll up their sleeves to check if their cinnabar marks were still there. The other maids rolled up their sleeves one by one. There were no issues. Only Qingying remained motionless for a long time. Qingying broke out in a cold sweat from fear. If the third prince discovered it was her last night, she would never be able to leave the palace. At this moment, Eunuch Yu noticed something was wrong. He stepped forward and asked for her name. Qingying replied, trembling, "You Qingying." The next second, a large hand lifted her chin. A handsome and peerless face appeared before her eyes, looking at her. "Was it you last night?" Qingying's eyes filled with tears, daring not to make a sound, like a lamb awaiting slaughter. Yao Yingxue, who was on the side, suddenly knelt to plead guilty, then rolled up her sleeve to probe. She asked, "Your Highness, the one you are looking for is this servant." The third prince yanked Yao Yingxue up. In an instant, a familiar fragrance hit him. It turned out the third prince was drunk last night and didn't remember the woman's appearance at all. He could only rely on the scent to confirm. Just like that, Yao Yingxue successfully entered Shangyang Palace. Yao Yingxue breathed a sigh of relief. She had gambled correctly. She held up the sachet to show off to Qingying with a smug look. Qingying, however, was calm as still water, rejoicing that she had escaped the calamity. But Yao Yingxue sought trouble with her at every turn. She even called Qingying to be her personal maid. It turned out Yao Yingxue's life was not easy. Since entering Shangyang Palace, she hadn't been graced by the third prince. So, Yao Yingxue made Qingying take silver to bribe Eunuch Lu by the third prince's side. 3 days later, the third prince indeed summoned Yao Yingxue. But according to palace rules, the personal maid had to go along. Although Yao Yingxue looked unhappy, she had to obey. Arriving outside the door, Yao Yingxue looked triumphant. "Tonight, you guard the door well and see who His Highness wants." The moment the door closed, looking at the third prince inside the room, Qingying unconsciously blushed. Qingying was secretly annoyed that she was attracted to him. After a while, there was no sound in the room. What followed was a burst of faint fragrance. Just as Qingying felt the fragrance was strange, she fell into a deep sleep. The third prince came out and held Qingying in his arms. "Why can this woman calm my restless heart?" The third prince couldn't help but lift Qingying's chin and kiss her. Doubts arose in his heart. Was it you that night? The next day, Yao Yingxue walked out with a shy look on her face. Qingying accidentally stepped on her skirt and fell headfirst into the third prince's arms. Qingying's eyes went wide, her face flushed red. She didn't know if it was her own heartbeat or the third prince's. She hurriedly got up and asked for forgiveness. The third prince didn't blame anyone. Back in the room, Yao Yingxue scolded Qingying loudly. Qingying's unintentional act, in her eyes, was throwing herself at him. She wouldn't allow the position she had worked so hard to get to be snatched by Qingying. To gain the third prince's favor, Yao Yingxue once again made Qingying go to bribe Eunuch Lu. Unexpectedly, this scene was caught right by the third prince. Seeing the third prince coming, Eunuch Lu quickly refused. In order not to let the third prince discover Yao Yingxue's actions, Qingying had to lie and say the silver was hers. The third prince's eyes instantly became sharp. He placed one hand on Qingying's small face. "Actually, you look quite nice, and the scent on you is very pleasant." Qingying closed her eyes in fear. She didn't want to go through that kind of thing again. Her heart kept saying no. The third prince, however, let go of his hand. His voice turned cold. But you're also good at bribery and buying others off. You really disappoint this prince. Qing Ying's eyes filled with tears. She should be happy. Why did her heart feel so uncomfortable? At night, Qing Ying served the two of them dinner. To teach Qing Ying a lesson, Yao Yingxue pinched Qing Ying's thigh hard while she was serving soup. Qing Ying looked pained, but dared not make a sound. In her panic, she knocked over the boiling hot soup bowl. Yao Yingxue took the opportunity to curse and told Qing Ying to get out. Qing Ying walked out, clutching her scalded hand. She ran head-on into a gorgeously dressed young man. The boy stepped forward thoughtfully to show concern. Qing Ying didn't recognize him. She even mistook him for the third prince's attendant. The boy was very surprised. There was actually someone in the palace who didn't know him. Besides, how did his outfit look like an attendant's? What an unsophisticated maid. The boy decided to play along. He thoughtfully applied burn ointment for Qing Ying and left the ointment with her. Then he skipped away. Qing Ying was charmed by the boy's smile. 2 days later, Qing Ying's hand was much better. She secretly wondered if she could meet the boy again. Unexpectedly, as soon as she went out, she saw him leisurely at the door. Seeing Qing Ying, the boy beamed with joy. He quickly asked if Qing Ying's hand was healed. At this moment, the boy's stomach growled. Qing Ying handed the food box to the boy. The boy ate 8 of them in one breath. He praised Qing Ying's skill while eating. When he learned these were osmanthus cakes, a trace of sadness appeared in the boy's eyes. Mother dislikes the smell of osmanthus the most, and every time she smells it, she loses her temper. Seeing the boy's desolate expression, Qing Ying had to comfort him. If you want to eat them in the future, come find me. Then she asked for the boy's name. To not reveal his identity, the boy told Qing Ying to just call him Little Five. Looking at Qing Ying's smile, the boy unconsciously praised her. You look really pretty when you smile. Qing Ying blushed and told him not to talk nonsense. At this time, a group of people outside the courtyard were shouting for Prince Qi. Qing Ying was puzzled. The 5th prince? Why are they looking for someone at Shanyang Palace? The boy looked startled. Maybe the Prince of Qi came to find the 3rd prince. Then he got up to help her. Qing Ying watched the boy leave with a motherly smile. She then packed the food box and prepared to leave. But as soon as she turned around, she bumped into the 3rd prince. Qing Ying was secretly annoyed that enemies always cross paths. The 3rd prince, however, accused her first. Why does this prince see you everywhere? Are you trying to seduce this prince? At night, just as Qing Ying walked to the door, Yao Yingxue was kicked out by the 3rd prince. To appease the 3rd prince, Yao Yingxue pushed Qing Ying directly inside. Qing Ying walked tremblingly to the 3rd prince's side. The 3rd prince raised an eyebrow. It's you. Qing Ying was so scared that beads of sweat rolled down her face. The 3rd prince said casually, you will serve tonight. Close the door. Qing Ying panicked. Did she have to accompany him here all night? Qing Ying hurriedly stepped forward. I will go call someone to accompany your highness. Eunuch Lu surely has arrangements. The 3rd prince's eyes were sharp. You dare to disobey what this prince says? Qing Ying dared not resist again. She got up and went to close the door. She didn't know what the 3rd prince wanted to do tonight. Just as Qing Ying was dazed. Haven't stayed overnight? Qing Ying was stunned. The 3rd prince blew again. Qing Ying was so scared she lost her voice. The 3rd prince sighed, but extinguished the candlestick. The moment the candle went out, Qing Ying sensed something wrong with the fragrance. Then her face flushed and her body went limp. Could this fragrance cause hallucinations of passion? Qing Ying pinched her hand hard to stay awake, but the lingering scenes of that night still floated in her mind. The 3rd prince interrupted Qing Ying's thoughts. Qing Ying couldn't help complaining about why she was so thirsty. She had just drunk a cup. Qing Ying held the candle and stepped forward. The 3rd prince pulled Qing Ying into his arms and began to touch her all over. Besides, she still had a candle in her hand. Watching the 3rd prince extinguish the candle with his bare hand, Qing Ying was startled. She saw the 3rd prince's eyes full of affection. Now it's time to put out my fire. Her whole body was pinned under the 3rd prince. No, stop. Qing Ying's eyes were full of tears, screaming herself hoarse to stop. But she was directly silenced by the 3rd prince. Do you want everyone to know? Yes. If others knew, she could never leave the palace. Helpless, she could only let the 3rd prince kiss her. Qing Ying's eyes filled with tears. With a cruel heart, she bit the 3rd prince's lip. The 3rd prince was furious. You have some nerve. You dare to bite me? Qing Ying begged with a crying voice. I am here to serve the night watch, not to sleep with you. A trace of displeasure flashed in the 3rd prince's eyes. If this prince wants you, you must give. Playing hard to get with this prince? This prince doesn't buy that. Saying so, he tore off Qing Ying's clothes. Her white skin was fully revealed. At the same time, the third prince also discovered that Qingying did not have a cinnabar mark. Do you know that for a maid to lose her chastity is a capital crime? Qingying remained silent. If the third prince found out that night was her, he definitely wouldn't let her go. Seeing this, the third prince also asked the suspicion in his heart. At Huxing Pavilion that night, was it you? Qingying repeatedly denied it and asked the third prince to punish her, because in the palace, a maid losing her chastity was a death sentence. The third prince gently lifted Qingying's hair. I won't punish you. He stepped forward and kissed her hair. Qingying's 3,000 strands of hair reflected. A romantic prince matches a romantic maid. Very good. But at this moment, Qingying felt an inexplicable bitterness in her heart. My man is yours. The third prince caressed Qingying's collarbone. This isn't the first time being kissed here either, is it? Qingying shouted no, which angered the third prince again. It's best not to play tricks in front of me. Qingying clutched her skirt tightly. Seeing that the third prince had no intention of stopping, she had mixed feelings. She couldn't let this person take everything from her again. But the more Qingying refused, the more excited the third prince became. He tore Qingying's skirt. It seems your relationship isn't that great. Qingying was speechless. Since I am another man's woman, your highness, please let me go. The third prince raised an eyebrow. Tonight, I will make you forget him. This prince is definitely no worse than him. Qingying panicked. Her whole body was rejecting him. Qingying groped around and found a teacup. She smashed it and held the shard against her body. The third prince's eyes were fierce. What? You want to murder this prince? Qingying's body trembled. This servant dares not. This servant only begs your highness to let me go. Saying that, she pressed the shard against her neck. If your highness is unwilling, this servant has only death. Seeing the seeping blood, the third prince snatched the shard and pulled Qingying to him. Do you really not want to sleep with this prince? Qingying nodded frantically. A forced melon isn't sweet. This prince won't touch you again. Qingying breathed a sigh of relief. Just as she was about to get off the bed, she was called back. Qingying thought the third prince had changed his mind. The third prince said arrogantly, "Put on my clothes for this prince." Qingying walked forward trembling. The clothes suddenly slipped. Qingying felt awkward. Why was she so clumsy every time? The third prince looked disdainful. What's the panic? This prince has seen all of you anyway. At night, looking at the sleeping Qingying, the third prince had doubts in his heart. Who exactly are you? To make me unable to control myself. Looking at Qingying, the third prince couldn't help but kiss her again. The next day, Qingying woke up on the bed startled. She was clearly on the floor. Why was she in bed? The third prince complained. Wasn't it you who climbed into my bed in the middle of the night? Looking at her messy skirt, Qingying hesitated. How can I go out like this? The next second, the third prince threw his own clothes over. It was meant to be caring, but he still grumbled angrily. Hurry up and leave. This prince still has to go to court. As soon as Qingying went out, she was called away by the Momo beside Yao Ingxue. They didn't even give her time to change clothes. As soon as she entered the door, she was scolded by Yao Ingxue. You didn't come back last night. Learning that Qingying spent the night in the third prince's room, Yao Ingxue beat Qingying without a word. Qingying tried her best to explain, but it was useless. It turned out, Yao Ingxue discovered that the silver used to bribe eunuch Lu was never sent out by Qingying. She suspected Qingying used the silver to pave her own way, which was why the prince kept Qingying overnight. The more Yao Ingxue thought, the angrier she got, wishing she could beat Qingying to death. She waited so many years to finally rise to power. She wouldn't allow anyone to snatch the third prince away. Listening to Yao Ingxue's abuse, Qingying felt bitterness in her heart. She just wanted to leave the palace. Why could she never escape the palace struggles? Seeing that Qingying was about to be beaten to death, the Momo on the side quickly explained. The third prince really didn't grace Qingying. According to Shangyang Palace rules, if the prince graces anyone, it must be recorded in the register. Realizing she misunderstood Qingying, Yao Ingxue still used the excuse of Qingying stealing silver to stomp on Qingying fiercely to vent her anger. At this moment, the third prince walked in. Yao Ingxue went up to him with a fawning look. The third prince was about to give orders, but glanced at the dying Qingying on the side. What's going on? Yao Ingxue explained she was teaching a maid a lesson because Qingying stole things in the palace. The third prince's eyes cleared. This bag of silver is yours? Yes, yes. It's what this concubine wanted to reward eunuch Lu with. The third prince's eyes instantly became fierce. Very good. Scared, Yao Xue quickly changed the subject. Did your highness come to find this concubine for something? 3 days later is the Yulan festival. Father and mother will come to Shangyang Palace for a family banquet. This prince leaves this matter to you to handle. Yao Xue was eager to take credit and agreed immediately. Yao Xue wanted to be attentive again, but was directly sent by the third prince to the accounting room. After Yao Xue left, the third prince held Qingying in his arms with pity. Looking at the back of Qingying's red and swollen hand, he kissed it gently. Qingying didn't react for a moment, actually thinking the prince's kiss was so gentle. After realizing it, she quickly pulled her hand away. The third prince carefully asked about Qingying's injuries. In a deep palace, you must learn to protect yourself. Saying that, he couldn't help but kiss Qingying. They didn't separate until they were out of breath. The third prince continued to wander around Qingying's neck. He didn't know why. Every time he met Qingying, he couldn't control himself. The atmosphere between the two reached a peak. This prince wants you. Hearing this, Qingying immediately pushed the third prince away, shouting no. The third prince frowned. Are you still thinking about that man? Qingying lowered her brow and remained silent. For a long time, the third prince stood up in disappointment. If you encounter danger again, you can notify this prince. Hearing the news of Qingying's injury, Little Five ran over early in the morning. Seeing Little Five's nervousness, Qingying quickly explained she was fine and could soon make delicious pastries for him. Little Five blushed. He wasn't here for the delicious pastries, but when the words came to his lips, he dared not say them. Qingying gently stroked Little Five's head. I know you care about me. Thank you, Little Five. Then Little Five asked about tomorrow night's banquet. Upon learning that Qingying wouldn't appear, Little Five breathed a sigh of relief. At night, Qingying heard Hongwei and Luho whispering from afar. It turned out Yao Xue had banned all the concubines to steal the spotlight herself. Listening to their conversation, it seemed they were going to deal with Yao Xue. Qingying didn't want to get involved in this muddy water. Just as she was about to leave, she was stopped by a little maid. The madam asked her to come back to get a hand warmer. But her stomach hurt badly, so she had to entrust this important task to Qingying. Qingying was speechless, but thinking it was just delivering a hand warmer, nothing should happen. Arriving at the banquet, seeing that several princes had married wives, the empress then urged the fifth prince. Qingying heard the voice was familiar, but didn't see the fifth prince. She saw the fifth prince hiding awkwardly under the table, using the excuse that he dropped his cup. Qingying immediately stepped forward to help find the cup. But when she saw the fifth prince clearly, she was stunned. Little Five, the fifth prince explained in a low voice that he didn't mean it. Qingying looked gloomy. So he was the invincible young general, Pei Yuanfeng. Qingying quickly retreated. This servant was rude before. A moment later, Yao Xue prepared almond tea to relieve everyone's boredom. As soon as Qingying took it, she smelled the scent of osmanthus. Thinking of what the fifth prince said before, that meant the empress disliked the smell of osmanthus the most. What Hongwei and the others said must be about this. If something happened to Yao Xue, as a maid, she would probably lose the chance to leave the palace too. Qingying decisively swapped out the tea with the osmanthus scent. Before the empress could drink it, Yao Xue suddenly fell to the ground with severe abdominal pain. Qingying panicked for a moment. Was there poison in the almond tea? But Hongwei and the others couldn't possibly poison the empress just to fix Yao Xue. Just as Qingying was dazed, the fourth prince insisted it was Qingying who poisoned it. He happened to see Qingying swapping the almond tea. Qingying screamed internally that this was bad. The emperor immediately ordered Qingying to be arrested. Qingying shouted that it wasn't her. The third prince clenched his fists tightly. But at this moment, his speaking would only add fuel to the fire. The fifth prince stepped forward. He explained that Qingying would not poison the empress mother. Seeing her own son pleading for her, the empress became even more convinced that Qingying must have been instructed by someone. And Qingying also realized, could this involve the royal family? The third prince had a gloomy face and said nothing. Qingying summoned the courage to question the fourth prince. Why didn't you stop me when you saw me tampering with it just now? The fourth prince explained he didn't expect a lowly maid to poison. Besides, a maid like her won't tell the truth without torture. The emperor immediately ordered torture. The crown prince and the fifth prince stepped forward directly. "Father, don't." The empress was unhappy. This little maid could actually make the crown prince and the prince of Qi plead for her. So she immediately pointed the spearhead at the third prince. "Third prince, this matter was handled by your world. I see he can't escape responsibility either." Yao Xue was so scared she begged for mercy. She didn't know what was going on at all, but she organized this matter, so naturally, she had to be responsible. Seeing she couldn't touch Qingying, the empress vented all her anger on Yao Xue. "Men, drag her out and beat her to death." Yao Xue immediately turned to the third prince for help. The third prince held Yao Xue in his arms. "Whatever is mine, I will destroy. This time I can only wrong you." Yao Xue was stunned. She told the third prince, trembling, "The person at Huxing Pavilion that night was not me. If your highness can save me, I will tell your highness who it was that night." The third prince looked at Qingying in the distance. "I don't need to know who it is." Then he looked at Yao Xue indifferently, letting her be dragged out. Seeing this, the empress asked the third prince how to deal with Qingying. The third prince stated to determine the crime after finding out the truth. The fifth prince still wanted to defend Qingying, but was directly rejected by the empress. "This woman is full of schemes. We must find out the mastermind from her mouth." So the empress requested the emperor, since it happened in Shangyang Palace, let the third prince investigate this matter. The emperor agreed readily and asked the third prince to give the empress an explanation. But looking at the crown prince, the empress had doubts. The crown prince had always been steady, yet he spoke for a little maid. This matter couldn't just end like this. After everyone left, the fourth prince pushed Qingying to the third prince and warned him. "Both inside and outside the palace are watching this matter. I hope you handle it impartially." To protect Qingying, the third prince had to imprison Qingying first. Qingying looked ashen. She clearly wanted to escape, but could she leave alive? Inside the dungeon, the fifth prince apologized to Qingying for hiding his identity. Although Qingying didn't blame him, their status was disparate. A prince was a prince after all. This precious sister-brother bond, Qingying also hid in the bottom of her heart. As soon as Qingying opened her eyes, she saw the fourth prince. She had been taken to an interrogation room. In order to force Qingying to confess the mastermind, the fourth prince actually used torture privately, asking, "Did the third prince instruct you?" Piercing pain from her fingers spread through her entire body. Only now did Qingying understand that innocence meant nothing here. They didn't want the truth at all. From beginning to end, they just wanted to pin the crime on the third prince. When she woke up again, a strange old man had appeared beside her. "Why don't you confess? As long as you say the name they want to hear, you can avoid this physical suffering." Qingying simply didn't know who the mastermind was. Even if she confessed, it would be a false accusation. The old man is right. It's rare for the torture chamber to see someone with such backbone. But Qingying wasn't just showing backbone. She believed in justice. The old man frowned. Is there still justice in this world? If the imperial family says something, even if they know it's wrong, as long as they insist on it, that becomes justice. Qingying didn't believe that. The justice she believed in was where the heart points, true fairness. The old man gave Qingying a meaningful look. It was rare to find someone like him. After speaking, he spat into his palm and smeared it directly onto Qingying's injured hand. Although Qingying thought it was dirty, she couldn't bring herself to say it. The old man explained that his body, soaked in medicine, was full of spiritual cures. Any random spit of his was more effective than those medicines. And where he had smeared it, Qingying truly felt the pain subside. Although Qingying was curious about the old man, he didn't seem to intend to reveal his identity. Meanwhile, the third prince had traced the poison to Jiangnan. The fifth prince heard that his fourth brother had used private torture on Qingying and was very worried. But if they rashly went to rescue her, it would only make Qingying suffer more. For the fourth prince to be so bold, he must have the empress's backing. The third prince instructed the fifth prince not to act blindly. If the empress knew his son cared so much about a palace maid, she likely wouldn't spare Qingying. Moreover, this involved the crown prince. They had to find a way to save Qingying quickly. On the other side, Qingying had been tormented by the fourth prince for several days. He always had her woken up in the middle of the night for torture. Even the old man, accustomed to life and death, couldn't watch anymore. Moved by compassion, he wanted to save Qingying. But this was the sky prison. Even if he gave Qingying wings, it would be useless. At this moment, a masked man broke in, saying he was there to take Yao Lao away. But the old man was stubborn. He wouldn't leave without finding the item he sought. The masked man persuaded, "You've been searching for 20 years. Perhaps it has long returned to dust. Why be so obsessed?" The old man retorted, "You come every year all these years. Which of us is more obsessed?" Qingying watched from the side, stunned. The masked man also noticed Qingying. He had heard of her case. The third prince would publicly try the case today. Even the emperor and empress would attend the hearing. If he guessed correctly, that fourth prince would definitely try to make Qingying talk today. If Qingying didn't confess, she would never be able to speak again. Just then, the fourth prince brought men to force a confession again. But Qingying still refused to say anything. The fourth prince's eyes turned fierce. "Since you refuse to speak, don't blame me." On the day of the hearing, the fourth prince tried to take Qingying away early. He wanted to silence Qingying forever before the hearing. But just as they exited the cell door, they were blocked by the third prince. "You Qingying will be taken to the hearing by me. Fourth brother, you've been busy these past few days. Go rest." The fourth prince was secretly annoyed. He was just one step away. Meanwhile, the guard beside him, for privately moving a prisoner, was punished with 50 strokes of the military rod by the third prince. Qingying thought the third prince had come to save her, and the little deer in her heart jumped uncontrollably. But the next second, she was pulled back to reality. "Men, take the prisoner to the Ministry of Justice to await trial." Qingying couldn't help but mock herself. Turns out she thought too much. In the end, it was still a dead end. Just as Qingying was dazed, the third prince suddenly turned back, leaned down to Qingying's ear, and whispered, "Don't worry, I will get you out." Arriving at the great hall, the emperor and empress were already seated. Seeing the injured Qingying, the crown prince immediately questioned the third prince. "How could you torture a weak woman into confessing?" Qingying explained it wasn't the third prince. Behind her, the fourth prince looked self-righteous. "It was me. Poisoning the empress is no small matter. Without using some methods, how would the prisoner confess?" The third prince asked coldly. "Then, did the prisoner confess?" The fourth prince instantly lost his momentum. "This damn girl is stubborn." The third prince mocked. "In other words, you got nothing out of her." The fourth prince looked disdainful. "Since third brother is so capable, then let me see what you can ask. Go ahead." The third prince asked Qingying, "What did you do to the empress's meal that day?" Qingying answered truthfully that she swapped the almond tea which had osmanthus added. The emperor asked how Qingying knew the empress disliked the scent of osmanthus. Qingying explained she heard the Prince of Qi mention it by chance. At these words, the fourth prince insisted. Qingying put the osmanthus there herself. It was to cover for the mastermind behind her. Qingying finally realized that no matter what she said, the fourth prince would pin the guilt on her. He wanted her dead. Little did he know, the third prince had already found the people who placed the osmanthus and had them sign confessions. The next moment, Hongwei and Luha were brought up. Hongwei immediately admitted that she did it to frame Yao Yingxue, acting out of momentary confusion. The empress looked displeased. "Third prince, this palace wants to find the poisoner. Do not avoid the heavy to focus on the light." The fourth prince added insult to injury. "If you have ability, don't push forward insignificant women to take the blame." The third prince retorted, "If you had ability, you wouldn't have used private torture on my maid," and still failed to get a single word. The fourth prince was left speechless. The third prince had also discovered that the poison contained a unique ingredient, the Shisuan flower. This flower grows in the south, and pills refined from it are only traded in the black market. Hearing south, the emperor clenched his fist. The south was rife with rebellion. The rebels had now extended their reach to the imperial family. The emperor immediately asked the third prince what he planned to do. The third prince stated the clues lay in the south. He would depart for the south tomorrow to thoroughly investigate, to give the empress an answer and return innocence to those involved. The emperor was very satisfied. Then he asked how to deal with Qingying. The third prince looked serious. "She is involved in this. I will take her with me to the south." Hearing this, Qingying looked in disbelief at the third prince. The crown prince immediately stepped in to stop it. "Impossible. The situation in the south is chaotic. It is unsafe for you to take her." The third prince turned, his expression icy. "Crown prince, I will protect my own maid. I won't trouble you to worry." The two were at daggers drawn, and the atmosphere became tense. At this point, the emperor spoke to break the deadlock. Old 3, since she is from your manor, handle her yourself. The third prince's eyes were determined as he bowed. In contrast, the crown prince lowered his eyes in silence, looking disappointed. On the way back, the fourth prince stepped up to tease, "Third brother, you really dote on this woman. You even take her with you when you leave." The third prince shot him a sideways glance and snorted coldly. "Take her? Or should I wait for you to break her before returning her to me?" The fourth prince laughed coldly. "What are you saying? I have always been one to pity fragrance and cherish jade. But third brother, it seems second brother and fifth brother are also interested in her." Qingying wanted to speak up to defend herself, but the third prince stopped her. "No need to pay him any mind." Just then, servants brought up the two who placed the osmanthus. "Your Highness, how shall we deal with Hongwei and the other?" The third prince looked at the two, his eyes cold. 20 strokes each, then dismissed them from the manor. The two cried, tears staining their faces like rain on pear blossoms. "Your Highness, don't. Please spare us. One night of husband and wife is 100 days of grace. Please let us go." The third prince's eyes darkened. "This prince has never had relations with you." Hongwei looked in disbelief. "How is that possible?" The third prince lowered his voice. "That was because of the sleeping incense used when you served in bed." Then he said sternly, "Take them away." Qingying couldn't help but fall into thought. Sleeping incense? Could it be the scent I smelled when Yao Yingxue served in bed? A bold idea rushed to her heart. Could it be he used it on all the women who served him? The scene before her slowly became blurry. Qingying felt dizzy and fell backward. Fortunately, the third prince caught Qingying in his arms. But no matter how he called her, Qingying remained in a coma. Tears slowly slid from the corners of her eyes as she kept crying out, "It wasn't me." "I don't know." The third prince was heartbroken. Such a stubborn girl. He gently stroked Qingying's head. "All right, I know. Don't be afraid. From now on, I will keep you by my side and protect you." Qingying gradually calmed down. In her subconscious, she could feel that warmth she had never experienced before. The person who said he would protect me. Who is he? When Qingying woke up, her wounds had already been bandaged. She thought Yuer had done it. Yuer explained, "It was bandaged when you were brought here. I thought the Prince of Qi did it for you." Qingying paused, thinking that little 5 wasn't right. She should call him the Prince of Qi. Yuer leaned in with a mischievous grin. "Qingying, I think the Prince of Qi probably likes you." "Don't talk nonsense. He is a prince. How could he like a maid?" "I don't think that's necessarily true." At that moment, a knock sounded at the door. Yuer was delighted. It must be the Prince of Qi. She ran excitedly to open the door. But standing at the door was not the Prince of Qi, but a man dressed in snow white, with handsome and profound features. Standing in the sunlight, he looked like a banished immortal. "Hey, Yuanxiao, why would he come?" Yuer's face turned pale, and she fell to her knees with a thud. Crown Prince. This servant greets the Crown Prince." Pei Yuanxiu walked in slowly, glanced at her, and said, "Can you withdraw?" "Yes, this servant withdraws." Yuer walked out cautiously. Only the two of them remained in the room. Qingying knelt on the ground. "This servant greets the Crown Prince. Your Highness could have sent someone to summon this servant, to condescend to come here. This servant is terrified." The Crown Prince seemed to realize something. Frowning at Qingying's flickering eyes, he suddenly asked, "You're afraid of me?" Qingying lowered her head. The Crown Prince is the future ruler of the nation, majestic and imposing. Being in awe of you is only natural. Then why, back in the Nanking Pavilion, were you never afraid of me? Qingying raised her head, unsure how to answer. She looked up into the Crown Prince's gentle eyes. "Why do you fear me?" As if seeing through her thoughts, the Crown Prince said, "Qingying, is it because of my handling of the He family? You think I am too heartless, so you fear me, is that it?" He sighed lightly. "Do you know why I silently permitted Fourth Brother's actions? He Qinzhou colluded with the southern rebels in secret. If his family were not punished severely, the consequences would be more than just confiscation of property. He Lianxing has a feminine appearance. By being taken in by Fourth Brother to serve only him, and not exiled to the frontier, his fate is likely better than Changji's." Hearing his words, Qingying suddenly understood. It was indeed so, but what Qingying hadn't expected was that the Crown Prince would come to explain this to her. "Qingying, actually, Seeing the Crown Prince seemed to want to say more, Qingying spoke softly to interrupt. "Your Highness, you are benevolent." It was this servant who was dull and did not penetrate the deeper meaning. Qingying lowered her eyelids. She could feel the Crown Prince's gaze on her, but she did not face him again. After an unknown amount of time, the Crown Prince let out a long sigh. Qingying, even if one day you see through me, I may not necessarily be able to see through myself. Sometimes, I really wish I didn't know who you were, and that you were still in the Naikang Pavilion, able to hand me a book. The little palace, Maid, was beautiful and gentle. Unknowingly, she attracted 3 princes to fight for her jealousy. But she only thought of leaving the palace quickly. After the crown prince left, Qingying sat in a daze. The crown prince's retreating figure made her feel a bit lonely. Just then, Yu walked in. She called Qingying a few times with no response. Walking up to Qingying, she gave her a start. You were teased, staring until you're silly? Could it be you have feelings for the crown prince? Qingying quickly covered Yuer's mouth. Yuer, what nonsense are you spouting again? Yuer looked at her for a moment, then said seriously, Qingying, while you were locked in the sky prison these past few days, the crown prince has been running around everywhere for you. I heard he even went to beg the empress. Qingying's heart gave a jolt. He actually went to beg the empress for me? Yue glint. See? That's why I say he likes you. No, he can't possibly like me. He has a beauty capable of toppling cities as his wife. Who would fall for a plain maid like me? The crown prince is a good person. He treats everyone this way. Yuer, stop talking nonsense. Seeing Qingying's indifferent appearance, Yuer could only pout and drop the subject. Qingying thought to herself, right now, I only want to leave the palace smoothly. Yuer looked happy. Don't worry. In another 2 months, we can leave the palace. At night, just as the two lay down, the 3rd prince's attendant arrived. Miss Qingying, the 3rd prince summons you. Qingying comforted the groggy Yuer. It's fine. Then she got up and went out. Eunuch, why has the 3rd prince summoned me so late? The man smiled. Summoning you so late, naturally, is for night duty. Qingying's heart skipped a beat. Yao Yingxue was dead. Surely it wasn't her turn for night duty? No matter what she thought, she slowly walked the path beneath her feet. When Qingying looked up, she was already at the bedroom door. Your Highness, she is here. The attendant bowed at the door, then turned to Qingying. Go in. Entering the room, Qingying trembled slightly. She knelt and whispered, This servant greets the 3rd prince. The 3rd prince sat at the head of the bed, clad entirely in black. He almost merged with the night. Those eyes, concealing a sharp light, shone brightly as he looked at her calmly. Extinguish the lamp. Qingying was surprised, but carefully nodded. Yes, everything seemed the same as that night, quiet, with an indescribable tension. Qingying kept her eyes wide open in the pitch-black night, not sleepy at all. Listening to the 3rd prince's even breathing, it unwittingly became midnight. Tea. A faint voice sounded from within the curtains. Qingying got up, poured a cup of tea, and passed it through the curtains. The 3rd prince didn't take the tea, but instead grabbed Qingying's hand. The man appeared cold and heartless on the surface, but in his heart, he treated the woman like a treasure. Qingying handed the teacup into the bed curtains, but the 3rd prince grabbed her. This time, Qingying didn't panic. Thinking he wanted to bully her like last time, Qingying bit her lower lip and struggled hard to pull her hand back. Your Highness, you're hurting me. A cold chuckle sounded from the curtains. The 3rd prince slowly sat up straight. Feeling wronged, Qingying bowed her head. This servant dares not. Suddenly, she felt a weight on her wrist. Pulled forcefully by the 3rd prince, she fell onto the bed. This time, Qingying completely panicked. The 3rd prince leaned over and said coldly, You Qingying, there are many women in this Shangyang palace, but you're the first woman this prince has wanted to protect. Qingying's heart trembled violently, and her body shivered. Your Highness, what do you mean? The 3rd prince lowered his head, his voice very gentle. Suffering some pain is better than losing your life. Qingying was startled. Did he lock me in prison to protect me? The 3rd prince continued, In this imperial palace, only I am fighting his son for the throne. Naturally, she won't let me off. Is it the empress? The 3rd prince didn't make a sound. The two remained silent for a while. Qingying thought the 3rd prince had fallen asleep. Just as she was hesitating whether to leave, she quietly prepared to get out of bed. The 3rd prince suddenly looked at her with sorrowful eyes. You want to leave too? Seeing the 3rd prince's expression, Qingying froze, her heart actually aching a little. After reacting, she quickly explained, This servant only wanted to pour another cup of tea for your Highness. The 3rd prince resumed his cold expression. No need. Then he grabbed Qingying. Looking at Qingying's injured fingers, he asked, Does it still hurt? Qingying was a bit surprised. It's mostly healed. The 3rd prince sighed in relief. Good thing this prince didn't start. Qingying was full of confusion. Your Highness, you. A moment later, the 3rd prince leaned down to kiss Qingying. Qingying was a little scared. You. No. The third prince smiled roguishly. No, this is playing hard to get. Then he domineeringly whispered in Qingying's ear, Go, I want you. Qingying was so scared she retreated repeatedly. Your Highness, this servant's wounds haven't healed yet. The third prince smiled faintly and asked back, Does that mean once you're healed, it's fine? Then this prince will wait for you. Qingying looked like life was hopeless. That's not what I meant. How did it turn into this? The little maid only wanted to leave the palace. She never expected that unknowingly. She had fallen for the third prince without realizing it. Qingying lay on the third prince, not daring to move. She glanced back, so nervous she could hardly breathe. Seeing the third prince wake up, Qingying blushed and tried to get up, but was pressed back down by the third prince. Don't move. You're the only exception. Qingying was startled and confused. She wanted to speak, but was hugged by the third prince. I am Tyrant. Don't move. Qingying obediently stayed still. Her little heart pounded. With her heartbeat so loud, would he hear it? The two spent the night peacefully like this. In the morning, Qingying looked at the unwoken third prince and couldn't help but sigh. I didn't expect he could show such a peaceful expression. How much pressure has he endured? Qingying gently touched that sleeping face. On such a handsome face, not a trace of a smile could be seen. Just as she was thinking, the third prince suddenly woke up. Their eyes met. Qingying instantly panicked. Your Highness, I. The third prince leaned into Qingying's ear and whispered, This is already the second time you've climbed into this prince's bed. Qingying was startled. I didn't. Last night, it was clearly your highness who was like that. Like what? Qingying was at a loss for words. You're just like that. The third prince leaned over and lifted Qingying's chin. Like this? Qingying was flustered and wanted to flee. The third prince teased, What? You're allowed to peek at this prince, but this prince can't look at you? Qingying's heart jumped. Had he been awake just now? Blushing, she said this servant overstepped. The third prince pulled Qingying into his arms. If you want to look at this prince, look openly. You don't want to look? Why do I feel that because we didn't continue last night, you are a bit disappointed? Qingying felt something was wrong and quickly interrupted. Your Highness, you need to go to court. No matter. This prince is ill today. Qingying was speechless. This person could really lie with a straight face. After a moment of silence, Eunuch Yu's voice suddenly came from outside. The emperor has arrived. Both were shocked. The emperor? Why would he come here at this time? The little maid was a heavenly beauty, actually fought over by two princes. Hearing the emperor had arrived, both sat up. The emperor? Why would he come here at this time? Qingying looked surprised and hurriedly tried to get up. Unexpectedly, the third prince reached out and pressed her back onto the bed. Qingying looked at him in confusion. She heard his low voice say, Lie down and don't move. After speaking, he got up, straightened his clothes, and walked out through the beaded curtains. The emperor walked in slowly. Dressed in a bright yellow dragon robe with a tall crown and wide belt, his sleeves fluttering, he walked up to Pei Yuan Hao. This son greets Imperial Father. Rise. The emperor waved his sleeve. Pei Yuan Hao immediately stood up and said, I wonder what instructions Imperial Father has for visiting this son's chambers so early. When you plan to go south to investigate. Imperial Father, this son plans to depart today. Not only the emperor, but even Qingying in the bed was secretly surprised. This person did things completely without warning. Since you are departing today, you must have prepared thoroughly. Thank you for your concern, Imperial Father. This son has already prepared everything. As they spoke, they walked slowly. The emperor casually flipped through a few books on the table. He said with a faint smile, These ancient books are not in the library. Where did you get them? This son borrowed them from the Naikang Pavilion. Naikang Pavilion. When saying these words, the emperor dragged the sound out slightly. Looking back at him, he said, That maid named you Qingying is from the Naikang Pavilion, right? Yes. Why does Imperial Father suddenly mention her? The emperor handed a book to the third prince and said casually, Since this case hasn't been fully tried, why not let her return to the Naikang Pavilion first? Seeing old Three didn't take it, the emperor sighed. The third prince raised his eyebrows slightly, a cold smile appearing on his face. Imperial Father attends to 10,000 matters daily and is busy with state affairs, yet suddenly cares about the whereabouts of a little maid. Could it be someone said something in Imperial Father's ear? As he spoke, he smiled faintly again. Was it royal brother? Interesting. Yu Qingying is but a small maid by this son's side, yet she can make the current crown prince care so much. Royal brother really attends to matters big and small. The emperor frowned slightly, hearing the thorns in his words. Yuan Hao, we do not wish to see you brothers hurt your harmony over a woman. Pei Yuanhao immediately laughed. Imperial father worries too much. How could the son be at odds with royal brother? Then it's settled. Where is she now? Pei Yuanhao smiled. She is currently in this son's bed. What? Hearing this, the emperor's face changed drastically. Yuanhao, Pei Yuanhao said, Imperial father, this son intends to take her along on this trip to the south. This time, the emperor did not get angry. He spoke slowly. Yuanhao, you have always been clear-headed. We hope you know what you're doing. Answering Imperial father, this son naturally knows. Good, as you wish. After speaking, the emperor stood up. Walking to the door, he turned back. When do you depart? The third prince bowed. This son will depart after bidding farewell to mother consort. Hearing this, a faint light flickered in the emperor's eyes again. After a moment of silence, he said quietly, let me see her. A man with wives and concubines in droves, singing and dancing every night. Yet unexpectedly, the man had never touched those women. Qing Ying followed the third prince all the way to the Linshui Pagoda. It was the deepest and most mysterious place in the palace. It was also the residence of the third prince's mother, the current imperial noble consort. Pei Yuanhao walked to the main gate, lifted the front of his robe, and knelt. This son greets mother consort. A voice sounded from within the closed doors. Why have you come? This son is departing for the south today and has come to bid farewell to mother consort. The Buddhist hall was quiet for a moment. The main doors slowly opened. Amidst the long creaking sound, a woman wearing a long robe slowly walked to the door. Departing today, Qing Ying looked up and saw the legendary, mysterious imperial noble consort. For some reason, she felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. At this moment, the imperial noble consort spoke quietly. Why go south? This son has a matter to handle. The imperial noble consort was silent for a while, then said softly, the south has many rebels, killing and seizing, not plowing and weeding. Be careful on your trip south. This son knows. Thank you, mother consort. At this time, the imperial noble consort's gaze fell on Qing Ying. Who is she? Qing Ying hurriedly bowed. This servant, Yu Qing Ying, greets the imperial noble consort. A servant? The imperial noble consort glanced at Qing Ying, frowning slightly. Yuanhao, this is the first time you brought someone here to accompany. Yuanhao spoke indifferently, saying she was his personal attendant. The imperial noble consort glanced at Qing Ying again. Rise. She turned to the third prince and urged, be careful yourself. After speaking, she slowly retreated. That clear figure slowly disappeared into the dim light of the Buddhist hall. Then the heavy doors slowly closed. Pei Yuanhao stood up. He stared at the closed doors for a long time before turning around. Qing Ying did not speak and quickly followed. Qing Ying was shocked by the third prince's expression just now. For a moment, his face was like a stagnant pool. What exactly happened to him? Qing Ying followed behind him all the way. He walked neither fast nor slow, but never stopped. Petals drifted slowly from the trees. Qing Ying looked at the high red walls, feeling a bit desolate in her heart. When would she truly be able to cross this wall? At this moment, Hong Wei appeared. This common woman pays respects to the third highness. The third prince said coldly, rise. Hong Wei stammered, Your Highness, there is something this common woman does not understand. Could you ask Yu Qing Ying to step aside? The third prince remained expressionless. Speak freely. Hong Wei paused. Your Highness, that book said we had no relations as husband and wife. Is it true that the gecko cinnabar has faded? Did Your Highness truly never love us? Women who were bent on staying in the palace never received pity, while those bent on leaving couldn't leave even if they wanted to. Qing Ying learned from the conversation with Hong Wei that the third prince had never touched those concubines from beginning to end. Hong Wei bid farewell to the third prince with eyes full of tears. Qing Ying was actually quite envious. Even if what they sought came to nothing, at least they could leave the palace safely. Qing Ying was thinking this when she accidentally bumped into someone. What are you thinking about? Qing Ying covered her nose. This servant dares not. The third prince cornered Qing Ying against the wall. Are you thinking about when you can escape these palace walls? Qing Ying secretly complained. Can he read minds? How does he know? The third prince smiled. It's written all over your face. Qing Ying felt angry listening to him. This liar is definitely tricking me again. She wanted to flee, but was pinned against the wall by the third prince. All women want to be by this prince's side. Why do you want to leave? Qingying was both shy and afraid. Your Highness is a prince. This servant is just a maid. I dare not have delusions. Is there anything you Qingying doesn't dare to do? Qingying shyly turned her head away. Your Highness, no. Before she could react, the third prince's cool lips pressed against hers. After a long time, the two separated. The third prince said gently, "Be this prince's woman." Qingying panicked upon hearing this. Your Highness, no. The third prince's eyes darkened. Do you hate this prince so much? Qingying lowered her head. This servant dares not. This servant is just. The third prince frowned, pulled Qingying over, and said sternly, "Is there someone else in your heart?" Without waiting for Qingying's explanation, the third prince dragged her away directly. At the palace gate, a carriage was already waiting. Seeing Pei Yuanhao, the guard stepped forward. "Third Highness, your subordinates have been waiting for a long time. Prepare to depart." Just then, a timid voice sounded from behind. Qingying. Qingying turned back and saw it was Yuer. "Yuer, why are you here?" Yuer had tears in her eyes. I came to see you off." Seeing this, the third prince let go of Qingying's hand. Qingying paused. "Thank you, Your Highness." Yuer still had tears in the corners of her eyes. "Qingying, you'll come back, right?" Qingying smiled bitterly. "By the time I come back, you might have already been released from the palace by the general amnesty. Don't worry about me." Yuer could no longer hold back and cried. "Eunuch, you said that only if you return safely from the south and leave the palace. Will my name be on the amnesty list?" A man actually used her good friend as a threat just to prevent a woman from leaving him. Qingying was shocked. Was this the third prince's order? Besides Yuer, she had no other attachments in this palace. So the third prince is using Yuer to control me? Just afraid I'll run away halfway? Yuer said with tears in her eyes. "Qingying, you must come back." Qingying stepped forward and hugged Yuer, comforting her. "Don't worry, Yuer. I will come back." The carriage gradually drove away from the palace. Pei Yuanhao kept his eyes closed and remained silent. Qingying couldn't help but steal a glance at the third prince. He smiled. "Look if you want to. You aren't the first to covet this prince's beauty." Qingying shyly turned her head. "I didn't. How is this person so narcissistic?" Qingying lifted the curtain to look outside. She discovered a carriage identical to theirs. Qingying subconsciously said, "Your Highness, this is." The third prince quickly stepped forward to block the curtain. "The journey is long. Rest a while." Qingying faintly felt something was wrong. Why use this tactic only after leaving the palace? The third prince seemed to be hiding many secrets. Perhaps not asking was the best choice. The carriage slowly drove toward the south. The following days were quite calm. Qingying was always reading books along the way. Holding the book, Qingying always missed the time in the library. Unknowingly, the third prince asked, "Not sleeping a bit more? The road is still long." Qingying was startled. "Your Highness, you're awake." The third prince waved his hand. "Come here and lean for a while." Qingying shrank back. "This servant is not tired." "Thank you for your concern, Your Highness." The third prince smiled wickedly. "Are you very afraid of this prince?" No, it's just the carriage is shaking and I'm a bit dizzy." "This servant is afraid of vomiting, which would be bad." The third prince approached with a wicked smile. "This prince will make you sober up." Qingying was scared and quickly retreated. "Your Highness, this servant is fine now." "Really? This prince actually feels a bit dizzy." Qingying was confused, wondering what he meant when the third prince leaned in directly. His cool, thin lips pressed against Qingying. Qingying wanted to refuse, but her body couldn't move at all. The third prince teased, "Your mouth says no, but your chest is heaving violently." Qingying was both shy and annoyed, lowering her head and saying no. But whatever she said, the third prince had a retort. "What to do? He twists everything I say." "Your Highness, this servant is only to serve you for a time." "Oh, then serve me by eating. I am hungry." Qingying panted lightly. "Your Highness, please let go of this servant. I'll go get you some food." The third prince smiled. Not only did he not let go, but he grabbed Qingying forcefully and said, "This prince wants to eat you." The little maid looked simple and clear as white paper. Yet she saw through the internal strife so clearly. The third prince approached with a wicked smile and grabbed Qingying. Qingying was like a frightened little white rabbit, helpless and pitiful, constantly thinking about what to do. The third prince looked at Qingying and smiled. "You aren't thinking about what to do, are you?" Before Qingying could speak, he pinned her under him and said in a commanding tone, "Open your mouth." Just then, a guard outside spoke up. "Third Highness, your subordinate has important matters to report." Pei Yuanhao frowned slightly, raised his head, and said, "News just came. The horse team was wiped out. The decoys are dead." "What?" "Did Pei Yuanhao's previous horse team all?" Qingying was shocked and hurriedly looked up at Pei Yuanhao. However, the third prince showed no surprise. He just sneered and muttered. He acted fast. His voice was very low, but Qingying was close to him and heard every word clearly. He said to the outside, "Go down and receive your reward." "Thank you, your highness." The man rode away. Pei Yuanhao slowly lowered his head and snorted coldly, truly a buzzkill. Qingying asked with a pale face, "Your highness, was that carriage replacing us?" The third prince nodded. "Yes. Are you scared?" Qingying nodded gently. "We've only been out of the palace for a few months. If your highness hadn't prepared in advance, we would already be." The third prince smiled. "You look much calmer now than you did just now. Do you know who wants to harm me?" Qingying bit her lower lip. After a long time, she said softly, "It's the empress." The third prince raised his eyebrows, looking at Qingying with some surprise. "How did you figure it out?" Qingying lowered her head. "I always felt it was strange. The empress evaded the poisoning incident, but she showed no relief for surviving a disaster. Instead, she was very unhappy. Moreover, this happened in Shangyang Palace. Yet the empress let your highness investigate the case. This doesn't seem like something a shrewd person like the empress would do. Until the appearance of the Shisuan flower, pointing all clues to the south. I guess the whole thing was actually a trap to lead your highness step by step to Jiangnan." The third prince looked at Qingying and smiled, thinking, this girl analyzes things quite thoroughly. He then asked, "Then is my trip south a path to death?" A trace of uneasiness flashed across Qingying's face. "This is just this servant's guess. There are many violent guests in Jiangnan. Even if your highness dies by assassination on the road, it is not impossible." The third prince secretly rejoiced. "It seems I've found a treasure." So he leaned in close. "Since you guess so much, why do you only suspect the empress? A woman has loyalty in her heart, but the man is unaware. She still tries to defend other men in front of him." The third prince picked up a book from his side. "Among those who want to get rid of me, isn't he number one?" Qingying said sternly, "No, it's not the crown prince." "Why?" "The crown prince is gentle and kind. He wouldn't put poison in his own mother's bowl. It definitely wouldn't be him." The third prince put down the book in his hand, leaned forward, his eyes full of coldness. "You trust him so much. This gives me a headache." Then he lifted Qingying's chin and asked, "Do you like the crown prince?" Qingying was confused by the question. Do I like the crown prince? She didn't know herself. She could only say with shame and embarrassment, "No, this servant is just a servant. How could I dare to covet the crown prince?" "Oh, really?" The third prince obviously didn't believe it. Qingying added, "Yes. Besides, the crown prince already has such a beautiful crown princess by his side." The third prince smiled. "Li Zhu, true. Having her by his side is enough for the crown prince to enjoy." Qingying heard that these words were definitely not meant literally, and the third prince's expression was also very strange. "Your highness, are you familiar with the crown princess?" The third prince's eyes darkened. "We've known each other since childhood, that's all." Then he fell silent again. The atmosphere fell into silence. Qingying was puzzled. Is the crown princess a topic that cannot be mentioned? Did something happen between them? Qingying couldn't help but turn her head away sadly. "I'm just a slave. What do royal matters have to do with me?" Qingying changed the subject. "Your highness could think of preparing another carriage, meaning you anticipated this was a conspiracy. Why still go south?" The third prince did not answer. Qingying turned her head and said angrily, "You don't care about my safety at all. I cherish my life, okay?" The third prince looked at Qingying with interest and smiled wickedly. "Just now, this prince said I was hungry." Qingying was startled. She immediately stood up. "Your highness, this servant will go prepare lunch for you right now." Before she could stand up, she was pressed down by the third prince. "I said today's lunch is you." Then he pulled Qingying into his arms. Qingying blushed and struggled. "Your highness, you can't." The third prince lowered his head and sniffed Qingying's hair. "You keep calling your highness, your highness. It seems you are more anxious than this prince." As he spoke, his hands began to get busy. Qingying's mind went blank. What to do? Whatever I say is wrong. Seeing Qingying's dazed look, the third prince smiled. "Since you don't want to be active, this prince will have to do the hard work." Then he took a deep breath. "It's this scent, just like that day." Qingying was shocked, her body trembling helplessly. "Does he know it was me that night?" Even so, Qingying still flatly denied it. "I'm not." The third prince looked doting. "Be good. Cooperate well. I'll be very gentle this time." A dignified prince of the realm, not only assassinated upon leaving, but now encountering bandits. Qingying realized the third prince was serious and felt panic in her heart. The third prince was still teasing. "Look, your body has already answered me. Don't be nervous, relax. This prince hasn't gotten real yet. Qing Ying went limp, having no strength at all, allowing the third prince to kiss her passionately. Just then, a burst of hoarse neighing sounded outside. The carriage shook violently and stopped. An arrogant laugh came to their ears. This mountain was opened by me. This tree was planted by me. If you want to pass, leave money for the road. Bandits. Qing Ying looked up at Pei Yuanhao, but saw no expression on his face. However, his eyes had turned red with bloodlust, interrupting this prince at a time like this. How should this prince kill them? After speaking, he lifted the curtain and walked out. Qing Ying breathed a sigh of relief. They actually saved me. I almost fell. The third prince was full of murderous intent. He didn't look back. Wait for me here. Qing Ying was shocked. Your Highness, you're going personally? Your Highness's body is precious. Hearing this, the third prince said coldly, don't worry. This prince has never been defeated. Qing Ying was speechless. This person is confident at all times. In front of the carriage, a dozen burly men blocked the way. One of them, built like a mountain, had eyes full of greed. Kid, hand over the money, and I'll spare your lives. The third prince's eyes were cold, giving off a chill that penetrated the bone. Are you worthy? The big man was stunned. It took a while to react. He cursed fiercely. I'm not worthy. Watch me chop you in two. As he spoke, he suddenly paused, his gaze falling on Qing Ying behind Pei Yuanhao. You actually brought a little beauty with you. The third prince's eyes suddenly became ruthless. He stepped forward to block Qing Ying. The big man swung the large horse saber in his hand and waved it fiercely, commanding the surrounding bandits. Get him! Chop up that pretty boy! Pei Yuanhao looked coldly at the scene before him. The guard beside him said, Master, please retreat. The third prince was unmoved. He said coldly, just a group of rats. Give me his sword. The third prince drew the sword and waved it, his eyes full of killing intent. The bandit shouted, Kid, it's not too late to beg for mercy. The third prince sneered. Is that so? Instantly, swords flashed on the official road. The bandit was still making threats. Leave your money and that woman, and I'll spare your life. The third prince looked disdainful. What kind of thing are you to dare act wild in front of me? This sentence completely angered the big man. The bandits beside him also had fierce looks in their eyes. They shouted, Boss Bao, don't waste time with him. Just kill him. We did this job hiding it from Huang Yi anyway. If we leave a witness and he finds out, it'll be trouble. The third prince frowned. Huang Yi? Who is Huang Yi? A dignified prince chased all the way, and in the fight, he couldn't even protect a little maid. The third prince asked sternly, Huang Yi? Who is Huang Yi? Boss Bao laughed ominously and stepped forward waving his blade. You don't need to know. Go to hell. The third prince's eyes were cold. Then there's no use keeping you. Then he turned around, raised his hand to his mouth, and whistled. Before the bandits could recover, countless silver lights flew from behind. Screams rang out immediately. Dozens of people fell to the ground. Ambush! Qing Ying opened her eyes wide, looking at everything before her. He really isn't as arrogant as he appears. He had arrangements long ago. So, was he just trying to get information just now? Just as she was thinking, the horse suddenly became restless, letting out a deafening neigh and raising its hooves. Qing Ying stumbled from the carriage's shaking. The third prince hurriedly turned back, seeing this situation. A trace of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes. Damn it, stop it for me. The subordinates immediately mounted their horses to chase the carriage. But it was too late. The horse ran back quickly for a long distance. Seeing the situation was bad, the bandits immediately ordered a retreat. Qing Ying could only stabilize herself by grabbing the window frame in the carriage. Qing Ying thought, I can't let this happen. I must find a way to stop the horse. Qing Ying tried twice and finally grabbed the reins. Feeling happy, she hurriedly pulled back with force. Stop for me. Finally, with Qing Ying's efforts, the horse slowly calmed down and finally stopped. Qing Ying breathed a long sigh of relief. She was about to collapse. Now I just have to wait for Pei Yuanhao and his men to come over, and I'll be saved. Just as she was thinking, the sound of hoofbeats came from behind. Qing Ying's heart stirred. They caught up so fast. She got up to look, but the scene that entered her eyes plunged her into fear again. It was bandits. Those bandits. Seeing Qing Ying, the bandits immediately showed surprise on their faces. Didn't expect you to escape here too. Since that's the case, come back with your master. As soon as the voice fell, they lunged at Qing Ying's carriage and grabbed her, immediately driving the carriage. Qing Ying was shocked and afraid. What are you doing? She fought for the reins with the bandit. No, let go. Go away. Seeing Qing Ying struggle and fight hard, the man got angry and ruthlessly slapped Qing Ying. Qing Ying only felt darkness before her eyes and slowly lost consciousness. The bandit snorted coldly. Finally didn't work for nothing. Woman captured by bandits. At the critical moment, she was actually saved from defilement by the bandit leader. When Qingying woke up again, it was pitch black before her eyes. Is it night? Where's this? A vague uneasiness rose in Qingying's heart. She had no memory after being knocked out by the bandit. While confused, she heard people talking. Brother Bao, it seems that pretty boy has quite a background. Even the iron armor cavalry came out to help him. Damn it, we lost so many brothers and got nothing. If Huang Yi knows. Hearing that vicious cursing, Qingying's heart tightened immediately. It's those bandits' voices. It seems this is their lair. There was only one thought in her mind. Escape. She must escape. Qingying tremblingly reached out her hand, groping in the dark to leave. But as soon as she reached out, she touched something. With a crash, the thing fell to the ground. Someone shouted, "Boss Bao, that woman is awake." A familiar coarse laugh sounded in her ear. Awake? Good. Since she's awake, let me have some fun. You go guard outside. Saying this, he walked step by step toward Qingying. He grabbed her. Let go of me. Let go. Qingying shouted desperately, hitting and struggling, but she was no match for this person's strength. Boss Bao smiled wickedly. Be obedient, and I'll be gentler with you. Qingying struggled, trying to push him away, but missed. Boss Bao looked at Qingying's appearance. What? Are you blind? I am blind. I am blind. Just as Qingying was shocked, the man's ominous laugh rang in her ear. Blind? Blind is good too. It has a special flavor. After speaking, he fiercely pushed Qingying onto the bed, his eyes full of greed. Little beauty, no one will save you here. Qingying struggled and shouted, but it was useless. No, don't. Let go of me. The sound of tearing clothes was right in her ear. Qingying was afraid and sad. At this moment, she could only think of one person in her heart. Your Highness, save me. Just then, someone suddenly ran in from outside, panting. Boss, bad news. We'll let you in. Can't you see we are? Boss, something happened. Huang Yi is up the mountain. What? Woman captured by bandits. Not only beaten blind, but nearly lost her innocence. Hearing that Huang Yi was up the mountain, Boss Bao's voice changed tune. What's going on? Why would Huang Yi come up the mountain? I don't know which grandson blabbed. Huang Yi found out about what we did and came up immediately. We're in trouble now. Boss Bao thought for a moment and hurriedly ordered, tie her up for me. Yes. The subordinates immediately rushed over and tied me up clumsily. Qingying still had lingering fears in her heart. Fortunately, Huang Yi came. Otherwise, today would be. But who is Huang Yi? Outside the house, a red-haired man stood with his hands behind his back. Huang Yi. Hearing the voice, Huang Yi turned around, his eyes cold. Leopard, you know why I came, right? Boss Bao's voice was no longer as fierce as before, carrying a smile and indescribable guilt and fawning. Huang Yi, veljome. The little ones pay respects. After a while, Huang Yi said sternly, Leopard, you have guts. Boss Bao knelt down with a thud. Huang Yi, spare my life. The little ones know we were wrong. It's just that we were really tight on money. Huang Yi's eyes darkened. Tight on money? In that case, you robbed the goods. Why rob a woman too? Boss Bao broke out in a cold sweat. Rob a woman? No, Huang Ji. The little ones know this is your taboo. How would we dare? Huang Yi's look was ruthless. Oh, really? Saying this, he walked toward the room next to them. Boss Bao was shocked, but dared not stop him. With a bang, the door was opened by Huang Yi. He saw Qingying tied up and curled on the ground. Huang Yi was startled. It's you. Then he picked Qingying up. Hey, can you hear me? Boss Bao's heart sank. Huang Yi, you know her? Huang Yi said coldly, I'm taking this person. You know the consequences of deceiving me. Boss Bao was already sweating profusely, thinking no way. This is a coincidence. It's over. Really over this time. A moment later, the third prince finally found his way there. His subordinates searched all the houses but only found a piece of fabric. The third prince frowned. This is Qingying's clothes. Boss Bao was pressed out by the subordinates. The third prince grabbed him and said sternly, Where's the woman you captured? Boss Bao said with a trembling voice, Huang. Huang, you took her away. The third prince's eyes darkened, and he shouted, Speak. Where did they go? Woman captured by bandits, but unexpectedly regained her freedom. But though free, she couldn't be happy. Qingying listened to the conversation outside and couldn't help but suspect who Huang Yi really was. But on second thought, she shook her head. I hope this isn't a dream. That would be great. A few days later, Qingying could dress and wash herself, though seeing people's faces was still a bit difficult. Miss, you woke up early today. Qingying smiled. Thank you, waiter. Miss, your eyes are getting better. Qingying took the food, still a bit blurry. May I ask, has Huang Yi come? Huang Yi? He left last night. What? He left? Qingying was shocked. The waiter nodded. Yes. Huang Yi said he had business to attend to and wouldn't be back. There is something at the head of the bed left for you. He said you must look at it. After speaking, he bowed to Qing Ying and turned to leave. Qing Ying slowly walked to the bed and felt a bulging cloth bundle. The sound of clinking came from inside. It was silver. Qing Ying felt a whole bag of broken silver. Although they were small ingots, added together there were at least 50 taels. This is 1 or 2 years of expenses for a middle-class family. Qing Ying couldn't recover for a moment, standing foolishly on the spot. Her vision was blurry. Her fingertips trembled as she caressed the silver ingots. An indescribable feeling surged in her heart. At this moment, Qing Ying suddenly realized something. With such a sum of money in hand, and having left the palace, that means I am free. Qing Ying immediately turned around to find the waiter. The waiter hadn't gone far. Hearing the shout, he looked back at her. Qing Ying groped her way out the door. Waiter, I want to leave. Where to? Settle the room bill. As she spoke, she tripped over the threshold. The waiter strode forward. Careful. Miss, your eyes are inconvenient. Don't rush. Qing Ying smiled awkwardly. Sorry, I was too impatient. The waiter helped Qing Ying up. Miss, if you have something to do, let me handle it. I want to settle the room bill. The waiter was stunned. Room bill? Huang Yi already settled it. He prepaid for half a year. Why do you want to leave, miss? Qing Ying was shocked. Prepaid for half a year? Was he worried my eyes couldn't see clearly? So he arranged this for me? A warm current surged in her heart again, making Qing Ying choke up a bit. Thank you, waiter. Then I'm leaving. The waiter paused, then hurriedly came up to support me. Miss, your eyes are inconvenient. Where are you going? Anywhere is fine. Qing Ying felt joy in her heart, like a daughter flying out of a cage. She had looked forward to this for 5 whole years. Finally, today had come. He was out of the palace. He was free. Just then, Yuer's voice suddenly rang in Qing Ying's ears. You must return safely from the south. Only then will my name be on the general amnesty list. Qing Ying, will you come back? The woman had finally escaped the imperial palace and gained freedom. But in an instant, a basin of cold water extinguished her hope. Someone was still waiting for her to return. Her expression darkened. The excitement from a moment ago vanished. Yuer was still waiting for Qing Ying to return. Qing Ying's heart went cold instantly. Her footsteps paused. The waiter beside her saw this and asked worriedly, Miss, are you feeling unwell? Qing Ying slowly raised her head, forcing a smile for him. My mind is in a mess. I want to walk alone. Seeing her like this, the waiter was very worried. Where are you going? Do you want me to go with you? Qing Ying was slightly surprised and stared at him. Seeing this, the waiter hurriedly explained, miss, don't misunderstand. Then the waiter added, this is Yifeng Yin. I am Lu San. Master Huang ordered us to take good care of you. Qing Ying just looked at Lu San, dazed for a few seconds. Such warmth was something she could never ask for in that cold imperial palace. Lu San felt a bit embarrassed, feeling he might have been too abrupt just now. Qing Ying smiled and said, then thank you, brother Lu San. Also, my name is Qing Ying. You could just call me Qing Ying. The streets were bustling with traffic and people. There was a commotion ahead. It seemed many people were gathering there. Qing Ying asked curiously, so Yangzhou is such a lively place. Lu San explained, it's not like this every day. Everyone is happy because the bandits on Huya Mountain have been wiped out. Qing Ying was startled. It was the gang that abducted her. Lu San continued, those bandits deserved it long ago, if not from Master Huang's face. Master Huang? Qing Ying was surprised and asked hurriedly, Master Huang, is he in league with those bandits? Lu San was stunned, surprised Qing Ying would ask that, then explained no. Master Huang is the chief of the water and land routes of our 3 southern provinces. Both the black and white paths fear him like a tiger. Qing Ying was so shocked she couldn't react for a moment. After a good while, she came back to her senses and asked, you just said for the sake of Master Huang's face. What does that mean? Since Master Huang took charge, he has managed these bandits and water pirates strictly. But this group on Huya Mountain was vicious. The people of Yangzhou City suffered a lot because of them. If not for Master Huang, the government would have acted long ago. So that's how it is. No wonder Boss Bao was so fearful of Master Huang. So, was it Master Huang who wiped out these bandits? No, who was it? Lu San paused, then said, I heard them say it seemed to be the ironclad green cavalry who personally went to exterminate them. Qingying lowered her head in thought, murmuring in her heart, ironclad green cavalry. Could it be the Third Highness? The woman rejoiced in her heart, though the man did not know. Even though she had regained her freedom, she couldn't feel happy at all. Lu Sin excitedly said, "By the way, tonight the Zhou Manor is setting off fireworks to celebrate. Miss Qingying, do you want to go watch?" Lu Sin asked as he walked, but realized Qingying hadn't followed. Looking back, he saw Qingying standing alone, head down in a daze. Lu Sin called her several times, but Qingying didn't react. So he stepped forward and patted her. "Miss Qingying, why aren't you walking?" Qingying finally came back to her senses. "I suddenly thought of someone and got distracted. Sorry, what did you say just now?" Lu San was about to mention the fireworks when he heard two people walking behind them complaining. "These past 2 days have been exhausting. I heard a big shot came from the capital. They made us work 3 shifts. Yeah, I heard they even sent the ironclad green cavalry to wipe out Huyang Mountain. The brothers at the prison said those bandits were all caught and tortured severely. I don't know what they're trying to find out." Qingying was startled. "Severe torture? Is he looking for me? If it's really him acting so high profile, he will inevitably expose his whereabouts." Qingying couldn't help but worry about the third prince. Those assassins who didn't succeed will definitely. "Sigh, why am I concerned about his safety?" She then turned to Lu San and said, "Let's go back." Just as they were leaving, she heard the 2 men say, "That big shot is also coming to tonight's fireworks display. Hurry up and stay alert on duty. We'll be busy tonight." Qingying suddenly felt a bit dejected. "He didn't find me. Would he think I'm dead? Is this the perfect chance to cut ties with him completely?" Night fell. Fireworks bloomed in the sky. Qingying's eyes could see more and more clearly. Unknowingly, she had walked to the center of the city. Suddenly, a woman beside her cheered. "He looked at me." Qingying looked up. Her heart skipped a beat. "The Third Highness. It's actually him. I ultimately cannot escape you all." The girl beside her looked love-struck. "Who is that person? He looks like a god in a painting." "No, even a god isn't as good-looking as him." Listening to their admiration, Qingying felt an inexplicable sense of loss in her heart. A god? Perhaps. Gods are always so unreachable, so beautiful. The fireworks illuminated the sky. It was unclear if Qingying was talking about the fireworks or the third prince. Suddenly, Qingying froze. The third prince seemed to be looking in her direction. Qingying hurriedly lowered her head to hide in the crowd. "Just now, our gazes seemed to meet. No, he's so far away, he couldn't possibly see me. Besides, there are so many people around." Qingying panicked and wanted to leave quickly. Just as she turned around, she saw a group of men in black approaching. "Oh no, assassins." At the same time, the third prince also walked down from the tower. Qingying cried out internally bad, "Danger! Your Highness, there are assassins. Don't come over." To save her beloved, the woman actually threw silver into the sky. The third prince struggled to find Qingying's figure in the crowd. Unable to find her, he shouted anxiously, "You Qingying, is that you?" This shout also let the assassins know the third prince's location. Seeing the third prince about to walk over, Qingying broke out in a cold sweat from anxiety. At this critical moment, Qingying took a pouch from her bosom and scattered it violently towards the sky. "There's silver!" Qingying shouted loudly. Dozens of pieces of broken silver fell from the sky like rain. Immediately, someone screamed, "What is that?" "Silver! It's silver! There's silver! Quick, pick it up." In an instant, everyone around bent down to pick up the silver. And because they bent down, the few assassins waiting for an opportunity to walk towards Pei Yuanhao stood out abruptly in the crowd. Pei Yuanhao also stopped his footsteps, looking at Qingying in shock. "You Qingying, you really are still alive. They are assassins. Be careful." As soon as Qingying's voice fell, the guard behind the third prince reacted quickly. They immediately rushed forward and blocked in front of Pei Yuanhao. Their swords were unsheathed in unison, flashing with cold light and menacing killing intent. "Assassins, protect the master." The surrounding commoners didn't have time to pick up the silver. Seeing the swords, they all scattered like birds and beasts in fear. After a moment, the third prince's gaze slowly shifted to Qingying. He said coldly, "Come here." His voice wasn't loud, but it carried an undeniable dominance. Qingying subconsciously took a step back. A trace of murderous intent suddenly welled up in the third prince's eyes. But just then, not far behind him, an assassin fiercely kicked away a guard. raised a long saber, and charged at him. And in his moment of distraction, he didn't dodge. No. Seeing the blade tip about to pierce his back, Qingying shouted and hurriedly threw herself over, blocking his body. The long sword cut Qingying's arm. Blood splattered. Qingying, the third prince, roared upon seeing this. The assassin sneered. You still have the mood to worry about others when you're about to die? Die together then. At this moment, a golden light flashed. Master Huang stepped forward quickly. What strong force! The assassin widened his eyes, his face full of disbelief. The third prince was startled. Who? That's not my man. Master Huang exerted force and sent the assassin flying with a palm strike. The third prince looked at the injured Qingying. Are you all right? Qingying endured the pain. Your Highness, I'm Fina. At this time, people from the yamen also arrived. Seeing the scene, they trembled with fear. Young master, is young master unharmed? Young master should return to the manor first. The third prince took out a handkerchief and carefully bandaged Qingying. Qingying was a bit shy. Your Highness, the third prince suddenly said sternly, next time, you are not allowed to be so reckless. The woman was only cut by a sword, yet nearly lost her life. Master Huang strode up to Qingying and the third prince. Pei Yuanhao was puzzled. Is this the person who helped just now? Young master, let this official introduce you. This is the president of the Liangjiang Chamber of Commerce, Wang Tianba. Master Huang? Hearing this address, Qingying's heart leaped to her throat. She hurriedly looked up at him. I didn't expect this to be my savior. I thought he would look like a bandit, but he's so handsome. The third prince raised his eyebrows. Master Huang, this nickname shakes the north and south. You are too kind. May I ask which prefecture this young master is from? Hong Wenquan hurriedly stepped forward. President Wang, this is young Master Yuan Ichu from the capital. Young Master Yuan, a pleasure. The two looked at each other and smiled. The scene looked dignified and beautiful. In reality, every breath concealed thick, killing intent. Pei Yuanhao said, just now Master Huang showed a hand of the golden eagle claw. Very impressive. It seems Master Huang is also a martial artist. Just a petty trick, Wang Tianba said. However, this young lady was fearless in the face of danger and sacrificed herself to save you. She has quite the courage. I admire her greatly. Saying that, he turned to look at Qingying, smiling. Miss, do you still remember me? Qingying solemnly bowed to him. Master Huang's life-saving grace. Qingying will never forget. He smiled faintly. It was merely a lifting of a hand. At this moment, Pei Yuanhao's voice rang in her ear. When was this? Qingying couldn't help but feel a slight tremble in her heart. She hurriedly and obediently answered, a few days ago, on Huyao Mountain. His gaze narrowed. So you returned to Yangzhou City long ago? Qingying didn't know why he asked this and nodded somewhat ignorantly. But as soon as she nodded, she realized his expression was unpleasant. After a moment of silence, the third prince asked, where did this silver come from? I gave all of these, Wang Tianba on the side said faintly. For some reason, Pei Yuanhao's expression became even gloomier. The two men were at daggers drawn, and the atmosphere was tense for a moment. At this time, Hong Wenquan on the side was good at observing expressions. He hurriedly leaned in and said, two gentlemen, we don't know if those assassins have any backup plans. It's unsafe to stay here. Let's return to the manor to discuss in detail. Both men nodded. Just as they turned to leave, Wang Tianba's gaze fell on my shoulder. He suddenly paused. Ah, you're injured? Are you all right? Qingying forced a smile. I'm Fina. As soon as she finished speaking, the pain intensified several times. And mixed within the pain was a burning heat like fire, spreading slowly from the wound. Before long, my entire arm felt like it was being roasted by a ball of fire. It hurt more and more. Immediately, my expression changed. Pei Yuanhao, seeing my appearance, also sensed something was wrong. Qingying, what's wrong with you? Pei Yuanhao, seeing Qingying's appearance, also sensed something was wrong. Qingying, what's wrong? Pain, pain. Qingying trembled more and more violently. She was in so much pain, she could barely stand. Seeing this, Pei Yuanhao hurriedly reached out and supported Qingying. Qingying could no longer speak. Leaning on the third prince's chest, her lips were pale and trembling uncontrollably. Qingying, Qingying. The third prince shouted Qingying's name loudly. But Qingying had absolutely no strength to answer. At this time, Wang Tianba also walked up, looked down at my condition, and checked my pulse. He said with a grave expression, she's poisoned. Before he could finish, the two men looked at each other, seeming to realize something. Pei Yuanhao reached out and picked Qingying up horizontally. While walking rapidly towards the Zhou manor, he shouted loudly, "Summon the doctor. Have him come see me immediately." Watching the third prince's anxious appearance, Master Wang couldn't help but wonder, who exactly is this young Master Yuan? Qingying was tortured by the severe pain until her consciousness scattered, constantly emitting broken moans. "It hurts. It hurts. Who will save me?" The third prince gritted his teeth, his voice carrying a chill colder than severe winter. "No matter what method is used, I want her alive." Pulse diagnosis, acupuncture, feeding medicine. They were busy for a full night. Only then did the pain of being roasted by fire subside slightly. Qingying vaguely felt that she had picked up her life from the gates of hell. Qingying slowly opened her eyes in the warmth. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw a familiar yet strange face. Pei Yuan Hao. He was right in front of her eyes like this. There were dark circles under his eyes, carrying a faint weariness. Qingying raised her head, looking at the face close at hand, and was dazed for a moment. Third Highness. Heavens, why am I lying in the Third Highness's arms? Seeing Qingying wake up, the third prince said faintly, "Awake?" Qingying was flustered for a moment, not knowing what to say. "Your Highness, I..." Before she could finish, her waist was embraced by the third prince. Before Qingying could react, the third prince had already lowered his head and kissed Qingying's lips. Qingying widened her eyes in shock. "Your Highness, you..." "Shoot, don't speak. You Qingying, you made this prince worry for a whole night." Qingying was so shocked she couldn't speak. She didn't expect the third prince to care about her so much. Just as she was thinking, the third prince's lips met hers again. "Is the wound still not healed? Why is your body hurting so much?" "Qingying, you really like me, right?" Qingying lowered her head shyly. "Your Highness, this slave is awake." The third prince hooked the corner of his lips. "That's great. Let me properly feel your temperature. Last night your hands became so icy." The woman fell for the man's domineering, offensive time and again, yet regained her reason at the critical moment time and again. Qingying's entire body went limp in the third prince's arms. "This prince likes your current temperature more. Are you calling out for this prince? You want it, don't you?" Qingying wanted to struggle, but her whole body had no strength at all and didn't obey her commands. The third prince comforted, "Relax a little. This prince will be very careful. Cooperate with me." Qingying was a bit flustered. What to do? I actually can't resist. Suddenly, the third prince's finger unintentionally swiped across Qingying's wound. A burst of severe pain suddenly struck. Qingying's dazed mind sobered up instantly. Qingying pushed the third prince away with force. "No." The third prince widened his eyes and looked at Qingying. Qingying was also a bit panicked and helpless. The third prince's gaze suddenly became very deep. "You Qingying, you hate this prince?" Qingying realized just then and was a bit afraid. She spoke timidly, "Your Highness, this slave." Before the explanation was finished, the third prince swayed, tilting backward slightly. Between his brows, one could see the third prince was unwell. "Your Highness, are you all right?" His hand was wrapped in bandages. He was injured too. "You're..." Just as Qingying was about to ask, the third prince said coldly, "I'm fine. You rest first." Then, without looking back, he directly opened the door and left. Qingying clearly felt that the third prince's whole body was trembling. Watching the third prince's retreating back, Qingying actually felt a bit worried. Is he injured? How did he get hurt? Thinking of this, Qingying felt a bit disappointed again. He is the Highness. I'm just a mere maid. He was just acting on a whim. People of the imperial family can't be serious about feelings. Shouldn't I know this best? A moment later, a smiling voice sounded at the door. "Miss, you're awake?" Qingying looked at her, a bit puzzled. "This young lady. You are." "My name is Ruyue. I am here to serve you. Mississippi Miss Ruyue. I am also a maid, not a young Mississippi." "I know, but Lord Hong ordered me to serve you." Hong Wenquan, the prefect of Yangzhou. Qingying was puzzled. What play is he acting out now? After breakfast, someone knocked gently on the door. "Miss Qingying, are you feeling better?" Looking up, it was actually Hong Wenquan. I hurriedly stood up to bow to him. "This slave greets Lord Hong." No need for formalities, no need. He laughed heartily, smiling. He asked, "I wonder if Ruyue and the others are serving Miss well? Are you satisfied?" I nodded. "They treat me very well. As long as you are satisfied. As long as it suits your wishes." Qingying remained silent, looking at him. "Prefect, why are you so enthusiastic towards a maid like me?" Han Wenquan spoke again. Miss Qingying, regarding these matters in Yangzhou, since they have alarmed the Third Highness, I would like to trouble Miss to speak gently when talking to His Highness. This official would be endlessly grateful. Qingying was startled. It seems he wants me to plead for leniency regarding last night's events. Lord Hong, you are afraid you have made a mistake. Qingying is just a serving maid. How could I? Qingying smiled politely. Lord Hong, you are afraid you have made a mistake. Qingying is just a serving maid. How could I have the virtue or ability to speak up in front of the Third Highness? Serving maid? Han Wenquan raised his eyebrows, looking at me with a gaze that held some admiration. After a while, he smiled and said, Miss Qingying, we are all sensible people. Sensible people don't speak in riddles. Last night, you were deeply poisoned. The Third Highness, for your sake, could. Qingying was in disbelief. What did His Highness do for me? Was I poisoned last night? Han Wenquan said this, glanced at Qingying, but didn't finish his sentence, only smiling faintly. This official has followed His Highness for quite some time, but has never seen His Highness like that. Back then, on Huyang Mountain, he was also... Qingying couldn't hear his subsequent words. The four words, deeply poisoned, were like a thunderbolt from a clear sky, striking heavily on the top of her head. Lord Hong, you said I was deeply poisoned? Yes. Qingying immediately widened her eyes in shock. No wonder. No wonder it hurt like death. My lord, then has my poison been cured? Han Wenquan hesitated for a moment. There should be no major issue. Should be. What? He doesn't know if my poison is cured? Seeing Qingying's puzzled gaze, Han Wenquan laughed awkwardly. To be honest, those few doctors this official keeps usually brag about being able to put flesh on white bones and revive the dead. But when it came down to it, not a single one was useful. It was still the Third Highness. The Third Highness? Qingying was startled. What happened to His Highness? Han Wenquan said, this official doesn't know either. I only know that later, His Highness drove everyone out. I don't know what method he used, but Miss, you recovered. Qingying listened as if it were a fantasy tale. Pei Yuanhao detoxified me? In Qingying's impression, he is a person who doesn't care about the life or death of others. How would he detoxify me? Most importantly, how did he detoxify me? Han Wenquan added, people of the imperial family usually carry some rare elixirs with them. Those are good things hard to buy with 1,000 gold, used for saving one's life. I saw that Miss was injured so severely before. I'm afraid you had already walked to the bridge of the underworld. But now you are fully recovered. I fear His Highness gave his own life-saving pill to Miss, saving Miss's life. As Han Wenquan spoke, he laughed while looking at Qingying with that ambiguous gaze. Although she didn't want to admit it, at that moment, Qingying truly felt a tremor in her chest. Is what Han Wenquan said true? Was it really Pei Yuanhao? Did he give his own life-saving pill to me?